Well, hello, and welcome back to Read Becca. It's time once again for my weekly chatty catch-up on everything I read, everything I'm currently reading, and everything I'm looking forward to reading, as well as some general lifey chit-chat and catch up on my week. So I promise this is actually going to be a short one for once. For real, I'm not lying. I am very tired, so this is not going to go on. And I also, as a result of that, have not been reading a ton this week. So the couple things I have to catch up on, I don't have a ton to say about because, for reasons. So the first, I don't have a ton to say about Ancillary Sword by Leckie because it continues on directly from the first book in this series. This is the second in the Imperial Raj trilogy, and as a result, that means I'm going to keep it kind of vague. The beginning of this book feels the most space opera-esque of this series. So I'm liking that this is a blend of genres. It's got a real mixed feel. I would say there is definitely military sci-fi elements to this series as well, very strongly, but those also, I would not put it into military sci-fi as a genre at all. Then, once we get past that beginning, the beginning is really great, like really appealed to me as someone who likes kind of courtly intrigue, because while it's sci-fi, it's very in space, and we're with these spaceship minds. They're sort of the political entities. It's a lot of hive minds and spaceship minds of bigger powers in the world that are interacting and creating drama between each other and having political intrigue. And so I loved that sort of maneuvering was great. But once we get past that, we're back into another murder mystery. And again, to the genre blending aspect of this series, that was really core to the first book. The first one I found more noirish, and this one I think was less. And I like that. I'm not a huge fan of noir. And so I think this one stood out as a better entry in the series, for me personally. This one had so much in that mystery that was fantastic because a big part of the series has been imperialism and colonization, and that's present there. We also have this real extreme class hierarchy, and that was touched on in the first book, but here it's even more prominent, I think. We literally have an upper class who kind of own everything and are exploiting almost exclusively a single race. They've really singled out them to be the bottom of the bottom, and they're exploited field workers in this, literally. And so there's a murder, obviously, and that really highlights uncovering some of the underbelly of all of this. What is underlying all of the motives behind that social hierarchy and the problems therein. And our main character, Breck, is such an interesting vehicle to discover all of this because Breck is an ancillary, meaning they're a ship's mind put into a body to act as an appendage for that ship's mind, which is an AI, basically. And so these ancillaries go about doing things, but we're also interacting with these other sort of ship mind entities significantly. So there's a lot of jumping around between multi-bodied minds, and that's really, really fun. So I think this is not hugely action-packed, but I was compelled to keep reading and really just had a fantastic time with it. I also did listen to the audio, and that made it all the better because the audio narrator is Enjoy Endo, and who I just could only keep hearing Mrs. Danbury every time I was sitting down to listen. But she does not lean into her really proper accent, and she does a lot of great voices for every character, very distinct. So really, really fantastic narration. Lady Danbury, not Mrs. Danbury. So yeah, it was just a great experience to listen to the audio along with reading this time. So fantastic. And I think I did enjoy this even more than the first book. So I'm pleased to continue on to book 3 very, very rapidly. Then I read Evil Flowers by Gunnhild Øyehaug and translated by Kari, Dickson. And this was less successful for me, very unsuccessful in fact. This is really short, and it's a collection of short stories that are very, very tiny. So it's really like flash fiction, which I generally don't get along with terribly, but I was kind of expecting absurd, and absurd is present, but I was expecting absurd kind of a weird fiction. And this is much more lit fic with tiny absurd elements, very minor. A lot of it, like in the individual stories, is very stream of consciousness, but also the flow of the collection is very stream of consciousness because there's a lot of metatextuality, a lot of things that are in the collection that are responding to other things. But it doesn't feel cohesive at all. So I had a problem with that. I think that, like, for instance, the story of the title, Evil Flowers, it is this whole weird thing of 3 stories in a row, really. where we have the story Evil Flowers, and it's this narrator telling us this kind of engaging story about more or less she doesn't like people talking to her, and about changes in her life related to that. But then completely tells us none of that's actually true, and it doesn't matter. But then goes on this rant about Baudelaire, and how Baudelaire would respond to his title being used. And there's a photo of Baudelaire. So the next story is a photo a bit like this. So presuming that that's how he would respond and say, what is the quote here? Evil flowers my ass is what the end of the Evil Flowers story is. And then it's followed by a protest. And so there is a royal we, a chorus, protesting not the story Evil Flowers, but the use of this photo in this way, without accrediting the photographer, and blah, 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 and on and on. And so I don't think I'm the reader for this, really is where I am. I think that the first story actually was my favorite, Birds, and it was kind of the most normal narrative, where the others were very stream of consciousness. So this one starts out with really engaging storytelling. As I sat on the toilet menstruating, a fairly large part of my brain fell down into the toilet bowl. I'd seen brains on TV, so could easily differentiate a piece of brain from a piece of mucosa. There it was, not black and clumpy, but brownish pink and shiny. I said nothing when I went back to the kitchen. I just sat down and ate my tacos as if nothing had happened. It's a very engaging start to the story that it's titled Birds, so you can intuit that the chunk that fell out of her brain was all about birds. And that's very problematic because she happens to be an ornithologist. So the whole first part of this is her trying to suss out, like, what did I lose? I don't understand. And feeling like she's all there and normal, and then recognizing, oh dear, oh dear, it's birds when that topic comes up. And this is especially problematic for her because she is an ornithologist who is nearing the deadline for her dissertation on snipes. And so that's like a great premise. And what was great about it for me here is that she decides she wants to hide this from her family, that she's lost this knowledge, and try to plow forward and just re-educate herself. And so she's scrambling to hide the lack of knowledge that she has always had, like this depth of interest and passion for, and also scrambling to get the information. Meanwhile, her family are like reacting to the fact that like she's behaving very strangely about this thing that she has so prominently in her life as like an identifier of her. And so that is very interesting, and I think could be a stand-in for so many things, not related to losing part of your brain. And I enjoyed a lot of that. So it wasn't like my favorite thing, but it gave me a lot of things to think about and evoked interest in me. And then every story from there was just downhill. So this was unfortunately a little disappointment in my Women in Translation reading, but I'm glad to have tried it. I think this is more for an academic and intellectualist reader that I am not. I think this is a Mark Nash probably book rather than me. I think the metatextual things there would play more to that type of reader. So not for me, but it may be for you. So I'm glad to have tried it and talked about it at least. Onward to the stuff I have read, I'm reading right now. My brain is mush right now. So I'm working on A Trade in Blood by Robert Jackson Bennett, the latest in the Emma and Din mysteries. This is the third book, and it just came out. I'm deep into it, so nearly finished. I will definitely finish within the next couple of days. I also just started Emi Yagi's When the Museum is Closed, next for my Women in Translation Month reading. So those are the books. In watching, I didn't finish anything, and that's because I have been sleeping a massive amount. So I guess onward to the short life update is that I'm dealing with some health stuff, and it has just really knocked me over big time. It's been a very difficult week, and I will be dealing with it for at least another week probably. But I'm feeling better now than I was a few days ago, and that's good. Things are progressing and working, and I'm just very, very tired and not feeling entirely well or myself right now. So I've been giving myself that grace. I've slept like 12 to 14 hours every night this week, pretty much. So yeah. Anyway, so that means that I may or may not read a ton this weekend. I don't know, or I may just binge watch shows. I was kind of half wishing I had done my Apple TV binge this week because it would have been perfect for that, because I just kind of have not had the brain power to do very much, but also not having the brain power to do very much has meant like no focus toward anything. So I would have felt like I was very much wasting the time that I had for a preview session of Apple TV. So anyway, not a lot. I've been trying to catch back up on my booktube watching, and I'm very behind now because of all that time spent watching shows on Apple TV last week. So that is basically all that is going on with me now. I think that's all. And I don't have any recommendations, even though I have been binging all the YouTubes. I don't think I've had any notable standouts, probably because my brain is just mush right now, but we will check if I've saved anything to remember next week and not worry about it this week. So that's all for me today. And with that, I will wish you a happy week in reading and in life. And thank you so very much for watching.